Okay, folks, I know the poster project seems like a distant memory now, so let's get started with project number 2. This is going to be a much longer term project. We're basically going to be working on it almost every week in class meetings and ideally outside of class from now until the end of the semester. This project is a little bit different from anything I've ever done before, modified both for the largely online learning experience that we're having this semester, and to make it more of a group and interactive project. But it's inspired on the idea of an un-essay project. So instead of a final essay, you have a lot of creative freedom to develop a project that's both fun for everyone in your group, but still connected to the dominant themes and conversations that we're having and going to continue to have in this class. So the goal here is for each group to develop a project that could teach someone specific who hasn't taken our class about an important topic, issue, or related set of issues connected to our course themes and topics. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to develop what you would like these projects to look like. And there are 3 early decisions that you and your group are going to make with regards to your project. You're going to choose a topic, you're going to choose a format, and you're going to choose an audience. I've published an assignment sheet for this project just as I did for the first one. I'll also link it in the show notes on this video. And it will be under course resources on our Canvas homepage. In that assignment sheet, there's a description of this project, and there's also some guiding questions that can help your group make these early first decisions. One thing I want to add here, you can make these decisions in any order. So you don't need to decide on a topic and then a format and then an audience. For some projects, it may be helpful to land on a format first. I suggest starting where your group agrees. If everybody is really excited about a particular format, start there and then pick a topic that goes with that format. Same thing with audience, same thing with topic. Talk really generally about all 3. If there's something that you're all pretty excited about, work from there. So let's talk about some format suggestions. You have a lot of creative freedom here. The topic choice will need to connect to our class, but this can take your format can take almost any video, audio, or visual or written project. Any sort of substantial creative project. So you could make a podcast, you could make a short series of YouTube videos, you could put together a Twitter account, an Instagram account, you could create a series of infographics. I know we've got some theater kids in this class. If you wanted to write a script for a short play, that would also be great. Anything that you can think of, run it by me. I'm inclined to say yes. If you're going to make me learn about TikTok, you can make me learn about TikTok. I'm 32, I don't know about TikTok. So potential audience ideas. So one really important thing to remember with this project is you're not making a general project for anybody to watch, for anybody to consume. You are going to want to think about a specific audience and target the way you develop your project for that audience. So what if you could think about making a project that is targeted towards children or towards high school students or other college students, towards parents, teachers, towards government officials. If there's an issue you're really passionate about that you'd like to see government action on, that would be a great idea. You could also make a project that's targeted toward TV or film or other popular media producers. And there are a lot of subdivisions within these categories that I suggest here. Oh, that doesn't work. So you could think about what would you like to make a project that is for an audience of female college students or young parents, for people who've had different types of lived experiences or who have whole different identity categories. So gay high school students, or for children who are questioning their gender identity. Anything along those lines would qualify for a specific audience. Like the poster project, there are some elements, no matter what format, no matter what topic you choose, you're going to want to include in your project in some way, shape, or form. And depending on your format, there are lots of ways that you could present these elements. But you want at least 5 quotes or paraphrases from course materials, at least 8 key terms, and material from each group member's interview. I'm going to get to the interviews in just a moment. You're also going to make at least 4 connections to popular culture. So this could be really anything in popular media. Unlike the poster project that largely just had a final deadline, this project is going to have 3 deadlines. So there'll be the final deadline is the 3rd, but you're also going to have a project proposal that's due in class on October 27th. So in that project proposal, I'll just pop into your group. This doesn't have to be anything super formal in class. I'll pop into your group, and all of your group members, 4 or 5 of you, will tell me what your topic choice is and your target audience, what format you've chosen, 3 key terms that you're pretty sure you're going to use, and 2 course materials that you think you're likely to include. Everyone in the group should also have an idea about who they want to interview and some draft questions prepared. Particularly the interview idea and the draft questions are going to need to be submitted to me through a Google Forms survey. So everyone in your group will do a Google Forms survey after we have this in-class meeting on Zoom on the evening of October 27th. And then the second deadline will be a work in progress check-in. I don't expect you to have the whole project done by then. I do expect everyone to have completed their interview by November 17th. You should also have chosen your 4 pop culture elements by this time. You should have 3 further key terms and 2 more course materials in addition to the ones that you laid out for the project proposal ready by this point. And I want to see whatever form your project takes, I want you to be ready to show me substantial work on drafting the final product. So if you're thinking about, if your group decides to make a podcast, you will have worked together to record not just interviews, but also other segments of that podcast by this point. And then the final deadline will be when you turn in the entire project on Wednesday, December 2nd. This is going to be a rare Wednesday deadline. Most things in our class are due on Sunday evenings, but I want everyone to have enough time to go through what I'm going to call the project gallery for each of the individual projects in our class. So rather than doing a presentation in our Zoom class meeting like we do with the poster projects, you're going to look at your group member, or not your group member's projects, but you're going to look at everybody else's projects on your own time in the week following December 2nd. What that gallery will look like depends on what sort of projects we have, and I don't know that yet. So once I know what projects you're doing, I'll start to design or set up a gallery space for everyone. So let's talk very briefly about interviews, because each of these projects is going to have original research, not just secondary research from other sources that other people have already written and researched, but your own original research. Your own original research. So every member of your group is going to interview someone who is either a professional in the area or in the topic they're talking about, or who has personal experience with that topic, who can add something about your research and your project topic. So everyone should plan to interview at least one person. If you want to interview more than one person, that's great, but they need to be able to contribute knowledge or experience. These interviews should probably be around 20 to 25 minutes. Once you get into an interview, you will realize that time goes by a lot faster than you think. You're going to want to prepare good interview questions in advance. Right? You're going to want to write them down and have them prepared before you speak to someone, I assume over Zoom. You're going to want to take thorough notes while you interview someone, or particularly if you're doing an audio type project, you're going to want to record, and most smartphones can record audio at this point. And you're going to want to follow ethical interview practices, which is going to be a topic in just a moment, like right now. So the first thing you want to do is get consent for an interview. Don't pretend to just want to have a casual conversation with someone and then use information from that conversation for your class project. That is unethical. You need to tell them, whoever you're interviewing, you need to tell them that you are interviewing them and that you're interviewing for a class project on whatever your topic is. Make it clear to them that particularly if it's a heavy subject or an emotionally weighty topic that you're talking to them about, make it sure that it's clear that you can stop or take a break at any time if they get overwhelmed. Also, if you're recording the interview, make sure you get consent to record that interview. Be clear what you're going to be asking about up front. Don't try to surprise anyone with a particularly tough or emotionally heavy question. Get permission to use their name, or if they'd rather you not use their name in the project, offer to use a pseudonym. I use pseudonyms in my research. I never use anyone's real name because the political the political research that I do can be really sensitive and really personal for people. So accurately present what they shared with you. Don't take anybody's quotes out of context. Don't misrepresent what they said. Do not interview vulnerable populations. This is a big one. So if, and the vulnerable populations in anthropological research are generally defined as children, people with psychological or mental differences, and people who are imprisoned. This can also include pregnant women, pregnant people, if the topic that you're interviewing them about is their pregnancy itself. I'm largely encouraging you to steer away from interviewing particularly people who are imprisoned and people with mental or psychological differences, because those ethical concerns are really grave and more than I think you should have to deal with for this type of project. If you would like to interview children, or if you'd like to interview pregnant women about their pregnancies, I'm willing to have a conversation with people on a one-on-one basis about the further sort of ethical concerns of having those conversations. Well, one thing I didn't mention is that you have a lot of latitude on choosing who you want to interview for this project. You can even interview classmates. You just can't interview people in your group. So if you want to interview someone in our class about an experience that they've had, that's fine as long as they're not in your group. And if the person in our class hasn't yet turned 18, you can interview them. Otherwise, if anybody under 18, let's have a conversation first. I'm open to it, but we need to have a further conversation about ethics that doesn't apply to anybody else. Finally, give all interviewees, except unless they're in our class, my contact information. So if they have any questions or concerns, they know how to get in touch with me. So what makes a good interview question? We're going to be talking about this more in class, but for now, a good interview question is an open-ended question. So a question that doesn't have just a yes or no answer or a one-word answer. Those don't make good interview questions for an anthropological style interview. Why questions are great questions. Why questions are almost always open-ended. They almost always invite a lot of response. And make sure your questions hit this Goldilocks zone that are specific to your topic, but broad enough to invite other comments, to invite unexpected data. So in that sense, you want to treat your list of interview questions as a guide and not as a script. So if you ask a particularly broad question that brings in new or unexpected information, you want to be prepared to pivot away for a moment from your list of interview questions and explore this new unexpected topic, particularly if you think it would be useful to your project. When I talked about anthropology being a holistic study of human experience, I mean that when we research and interview people about, let's say, their experiences with race and racial identity, we expect and are prepared to also talk about economic identity, to talk about gender identity. The holistic approach to anthropology means that we recognize all of the really important connections between different aspects of people's lived experiences. So keep that in mind both when writing your interview questions and doing your interviews. As I've said, we're going to talk about interviews more in class. You're not going to be doing any interviews before at least the end of October. When you send me your interview questions. If you did want to do them earlier, that's fine, but don't interview anyone until we've had a conversation about your draft interview questions. It's really, really helpful to get somebody else's eyes on your interview questions. So I'll close this week with a quote that I had up in our virtual classroom, at least the first half of this quote. Last week, fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that leads others to join you. This is a really poignant quote, not just because of the recent passing of Justice Ginsburg, but because this is a great way of describing the goal of these projects. The topics that you choose should be something that you care about, and your project goal, one of your project goals should be presenting them in a way that would lead your audience, would lead others to care about things in the same way, to care about that topic in the same way that you do. All right. You should now be prepared to take the lecture quiz, and I will see you all in class next week. I hope you're excited to get started on this project. I'm excited to start working with you on them.